Hi, I'm Mr. Bowers, Head of PE here at Harris Academy, Greenwich. I'm just going to run you through what the Cambridge National in Sports Studies entails. Just a bit of an overview of the course. Now, the Cambridge National in Sports Studies, there are options that you can do, one in sports science and sports studies. Here at Greenwich, we only do sports studies. And the reason we do that is it takes more of a career focus, and what happens is we spend less time maybe focusing on the bones, muscles, how that reacts, which you might get from GCSE PE. We focus a lot more actually on sports careers and things that skills that students can take forward wanting to go and take sport as a career, moving into higher education, possibly university, and then obviously jobs. We obviously allow them to do some physical activity during it. However, I think the preconceived idea is that it is a lot more physical than it is theory and written. That is obviously something I want to sort of discuss and get across to you, that pretty much you're probably looking at about 70% theory, practical is around 30%. So we do do stuff where we look at performance in team and individual sports. We look at leading in sports, so creating our own leadership programs, and then obviously undertaking them with either other students from within the class, or we look at doing it with other students within the school. That said, then we do obviously do lots of other work that is more theory based around those things, like skills and leadership planning obviously takes a priority in that. We look at sports media, as well as sort of the idea of contemporary issues, which is the first part that your son or daughter will study when they come to take this. So what do we study? As you can see on the screen there are 4 different units. Those 4 different units they cover throughout the 2 years. We start with Unit 1, RO51 and RO52, which is contemporary issues. Now that is a written exam. That exam takes place in the summer of year 10. So they will sit an exam in the summer of year 10, which is something people need to be aware of. This is the stuff we spoke about on the last slide, contemporary issues, things like drugs in sport, talking about the different roles in which we can increase participation. We look at things like how governing bodies work within sport to improve their sporting take-up, or to look at how different participation structures are put in place to allow us to develop sport within the UK. Developing sport, like I said previously, is all about sport skills. We do some practical where we look at a team sport and an individual sport. That varies throughout the year. Once the exam has been taken at the end of the year, we tend to then spend time working on this coursework as we head in towards the summer of year 10. This looks at analysis of their performance within a certain sport, how they might improve it, setting improvement plans. Then as we go into the second year in year 11, we then study sports leadership. This is where they plan their own sports leadership sessions. They understand how that works, looking at contingency plans, risk assessments, and then teach their session before evaluating it. And the final one that we look at sort of from Christmas onwards in year 11 is sport and media. Sport and the media really looks at how sport is reported within things like newspapers, radio, online. So we look at as a major sporting event, and we look at how basically it has been covered in the media from lots of different angles, and how and why the reasons might be that they've covered it in that way. Just some skills that you might learn, or you will learn as you go through. Obviously we look to develop their practical skills, we talked about that. this idea of healthy and active lifestyles. We look to promote an understanding of the risks. Obviously, it's important that we understand how we risk assess, and we're going to look to do that as we go forward in our careers. Develop understanding of the anatomy and physiology, so you know which muscles are used for this activity, which bones are maybe used. All right, developing necessary to analyze. We have to look at our important performance, can we improve? And then sort of social development, personal and social development, where we have to work, especially in the idea of sports leadership, working with each other, and then obviously understanding the psychological factors that can impact performance. Just a couple of bits for you to look at, maybe obviously some ideas of where they might want to go if they want to take this into higher education. Obviously at university there are many things you can do, is just an example of how it can be used. And then obviously just a final look at some careers that you might be able to do, all right, after taking it. There's a lot here: sports medicine, sports coaches, sports marketing. And here finally are just some examples of student work. This is the media unit that I spoke about. There's a couple of stories there about Manchester City and how media's been used in sport. And then this is an example here of practical sport and how practical sport has been, how they analysed their performance. In this case it was a badminton player, how they'd analysed their performance in terms of how to each shot and what they need to do to improve.